CEO never says, I am essentially
my job's on the line.
When he announced his retirement, the stock dropped. I'm like, how is that not priced in? The man was 95 years old.
His net worth is 159 times Rihanna's.
I thought we were in an era now where the racists were kind of ashamed, but I'm not really racist. But no, but like they had to.
So we're middle aged.
So this is middle age. Yo, everyone, welcome back. Brand new techish in the building. It is me, Michael Bain, the CEO of Pocket and Pocket Jobs, and I am joined with the one and only
Abadesi of Hustle Crew.
Back from a fresh break. How was your break?
It was great. Have you been to Thailand?
Never been. I would love to go. We can
highly recommend.
You're refreshed and recharged, back for some techish goodness. I think the first story I wanted to talk about was an email that leaked. I love when CEO emails leak because it feels like you're just getting the inside scoop in it, man. And I don't know who the people that take the screenshots, but shout out to you. So this was the CEO of Fiverr, and I won't read the whole email, but basically he starts off by saying, listen, I believe in telling the radical truth despite how unpleasant it may be. So here's the unpleasant truth. AI is coming for your job. It's coming for my job too. This is a wake-up call. It does not matter if you're a programmer, designer, product manager, blah, blah, blah. He gives a whole bunch of roles there. AI is coming for you. You must understand that what was once considered an easy task will no longer exist. What was once considered a hard task will be the new easy. And what was once considered impossible task will be the new hard. If you do not become an exceptional talent at what you do, a master, you will face the need for a career change in a matter of months. I am not trying to scare you, and I am not talking about your job at Fiverr. I'm talking about your ability to stay in your profession in this industry, in any industry, sorry. So he was not playing around. So for some additional context, Fiverr actually, so I thought, oh, maybe Fiverr's like really struggling. Supposedly they've got revenue growth here, which is insane. Wow. So the revenue has grown 13% Q4 2024 from Q4 2023, and they're primarily like a platform for like freelancers. In case you don't know, what's your thoughts when you read this email? Does it ring true? Is it just unnecessary alarmist, or is it actually an open and transparent thing from a CEO to say to his team, like, listen, guys, I'm telling you right now, I see what's coming.
Yeah,
get ready.
I feel like he like listened to a podcast. You know, sometimes you like listen to a podcast and then it's like all you talk about. Yeah, exactly. He listened to Techish and he's like, that Michael, he's onto something. When you first started telling me the story, I thought it was that case of like, let me do something that's going to like nudge the share price or like make investors feel like, you know, I'm on it. I'm on top of it. But if they're doing well, I don't know. It's a weird one for a CEO. Like, is he trying to gear up for some layoffs? Like, what's the play here? You know, I'm thinking about it in terms of a chess game. 3 moves from now, what is this setting up? And yeah, it's like it's an odd thing to say. I mean, I do think it's important for most CEOs and business owners and leaders to remind people to like leverage AI, but it feels like this is a very different conversation. It's more of like an existential conversation, which is not use AI more in your jobs, but like you might not have a job. But in a way, he could just be trying to like get people to work harder, right? Like he could just be trying to get people, because the message is be exceptional at what you do. So it's kind of like a fear tactic to be like, you better be the best darn customer success person we've ever hired. You better be the best darn product manager. Is that how you motivate your team? Do you like to scare them into action?
You know, one of my people that I read up a lot and look up to, Lee Kuan Yew, he's the founder of Singapore essentially and got them from third world to first. He was like, listen, you got to rule by fear. And I always came from the perspective of like, no, you got to better to be loved and respected than fear. And he was like, listen, if there's no fear, if there's no basis of fear in what I'm saying, like in what I'm saying to you, you will not follow through. And as an employer, I've been scarred by not kind of by being too pally sometimes, and like sometimes you do need a modicum of fear. But this is obviously difficult. Yeah, you got to be, because listen, like,
come on, you're scared of me.
We need to grow this podcast downloads. So let's do it. Nah, but what I'm gonna say is that like you're right. There's no downside in him saying this, because either A, he's telling the truth and he really just believes in, you know, get your AI game on point, or B, he just wants to whip his team into shape. And either way, there's no downside for him to say that. But you have to also understand that Fiverr is very much selling services on the lower end of that stack. So like its original conceit was that you have $5, here's a freelancer that we can get you basically for $5. Obviously they've expanded beyond that, but that was the concept. So essentially it was a race to the bottom. If you were a freelancer on that platform, you were pitching at the cheapest possible price for the most cheapest customer, basically. And cheap customers are actually terrible customers, just to be honest with you, right? So if I'm a cheap customer, no retention, just want it as quickly as possible.
Deal hunter, bargain hunter.
Deal hunter, gonna drive you, you know, like a slave, basically, right? So if I am that kind of customer, I'm probably more likely to use an AI tool right now than to go on Fiverr, maybe potentially to replace, you know, or supplement, right? Because you can go and get some graphic design work done now on ChatGPT 4. It's not perfect, but if I'm a cheap customer, maybe it's good enough. So even though revenue has gone up Q4 2024, I'm pretty sure he could probably still see a drop in demand And this might be
profit as well, maybe headcount,
profitability,
cut down
headcount,
costs,
number of, because you can still drive revenue through other ways. It could be like subscriptions. It could be like we've increased the pricing, or there's other kind of cheeky ways that in the short term you can juice revenue and sales. But maybe you can still see in the charts, in the cohorts, you're like, well, actually, we're seeing now less and less inbound potentially, right? So that might have panicked him. And he's telling the team, listen, we need to step up, otherwise we might not be in business. Because he did mention that line, heck, I might be out of a job too. So
that's like his coach. I feel
okay, yeah. No, but I've never seen a CEO say that in an email when they're talking about we need to do layoffs. Whenever there's like a layoff email, the CEO never says I am potentially
my job's on the line as well.
Yeah, right. So if I take it at face value, that could be it. He's seeing a slowdown potentially in the type of user that comes to their platform. He's probably also looking at his team and thinking to themselves, if you are working in the exact same way as you were 2 years ago, you're kind of slipping. Like I had a meeting with an executive at a large company, and they're a friend of mine, and they were researching something for a project. They work for a very large fintech company, and I was like, "Well, have you looked at like Perplexity?" And they were like, "I don't know what that is."
What?
Well, have you tried Claude? And they were like, "I don't know what that is." I was like, "Okay, cool. What project are you working on?" They're like, "Okay, this is the project. Okay, let's just go on Perplexity, do some research." And they were like, "Rah, like this is actually like really, really good." I was like,
my days!
How do you not know? But you.
When was this?
This is like late last year. So the thing is, me and you, and hopefully people listening to the show, we're still in a bit of a bubble. Like not everyone is using these tools to the maximum of their capabilities, and a lot of people are still kind of operating in the exact same way. So if I'm an employer and I see people doing that, I'm going to be like, well, listen, you need to kind of supercharge yourself, wake up, supercharge your skills with AI. If you're a customer success manager or an assistant, maybe you could 2 to 3x the number of emails you're sending out now with AI. So that's probably what he's saying. And if you're trying to carry on as per normal, and there's another person who can do 5 times your output because they're leveraging these tools, you will be replaced, right? And I think that's what he's saying.
I think you're spot on, because the incentive for entrepreneurs, creatives, freelancers to use these tools is much higher. But it's much higher than a corporate professional, right? Because at the end of the day, like we are dependent on ourselves, our output for our survival. The more I sell, the more money I have. Like fact, I'm not on a salary. I mean, I am on a salary, but you know what I mean? Like my business is...
There's no guarantees. There's no guarantees, basically.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like if you're an entrepreneur, a business owner, a freelancer, you're like basically ChatGPT is your co-founder. It's your new salesperson. It's your new social media intern. It's your new accounting intern. It's on tap, giving you answers, helping you scale, helping you level up. And if you're a professional, you can get comfortable. You can be like, you know what? I mean, I'm getting paid at the end of the month, whatever happens. And so there isn't as much of an incentive for you to think, okay, let me think of how I can use these tools to increase my productivity, whatever kind of creative prompts you might be putting in as a customer success, as a salesperson or whatever. So yeah, I do find that really interesting. Like one of the things that I found really helpful this month with like sales is just like using ChatGPT to be like, hey, can you give me like, based on the revenue that I want to achieve and the conversion rate data that I have, like, just give me some weekly targets and put them in a Notion tracker, like literally basic checkboxy kind of vibe, so that at the end of every day, I've got something visual to like know that I'm on track. And it's like, yeah, sure, here you go, tweaked it. It's not revolutionary, but it's just an extra little tool that helps me stay accountable. And it can be as simple as that, like the way that we use these platforms. But yeah, it's really interesting. One of the things I wanted to say as well, just before we move on, I read this really interesting report from McKinsey. I think it was part of their Women in the Workplace study. And they were kind of talking about like the role of women in technology and the workplace in general. And they were saying that in a lot of industries, corporate industries, women tend to be overrepresented in the roles most at risk of being automated through AI.
Interesting.
So as an example, because there are fewer women in like research and development, software engineering, let's just say as an example, I think it's like roughly like 1 in 5 engineers are women, compared to customer success or account management, where it skews the other way, where there are actually more women in those roles, just because of whether it's gender stereotypes, women are better at relationship roles, who knows? And the argument was being made that like women are already at a disadvantage in these technical industries. They're going to be even more at a disadvantage as AI comes in to take these like relationship-based roles. And it was making an argument that for women to maximize their income, but also to like protect their like career credibility and reputation, they should be looking at like, I think they called it like pioneer jobs. So it's like, what are the jobs that only exist now that we are in an AI revolution. And I found it really interesting because in the analysis it said, let's say, for example, you are like an AI implementation consultant, right? You sell to companies, hey, this is how you like use AI to replace people. Those jobs, these like pioneering roles, are already being dominated by men. So women are already underrepresented in these new wave of roles that are being created every day. They didn't exist yesterday. They didn't exist last month. So it was saying like women need to do more to be in that position where they're, you know, creating the roles that only exist because of the period we're in. And then the other really interesting thing that came out of that was that they also predict that another really lucrative industry or type of role is doing indispensable services for ultra high net worth individuals.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I hear it.
So it's like, if you do want to stay in a services job, like if you do want to stay like as a teacher, I don't know, a yoga teacher, a cook, a caregiver, do it for ultra high net worth people where you can charge a higher price point for it.
And do you know what is interesting? I think the roles where women do tend to dominate, I know in the States, there's been an uptick in men doing nursing, because actually nursing is quite a relatively lucrative career in the US. Like you can be on six figures as a nurse, which is kind of mind blowing to a UK person. Just because the salaries here are so low. But there basically has been an uptick in men now trying to come in because like they can see the writing on the wall and seeing that actually AI and displacement of jobs are coming. So what is not kind of replaceable is that kind of physical human contact. So yeah, like there's going to be a whole bunch of switching around and people trying to figure things out. And yeah, we'll see what the future holds. I just think leverage these tools as much as possible to even figure out what you need to do. So
absolutely
ask ChatGPT, hey, I'm in this career role right now. Like, what are the possibilities? Could I be automated? How can I stay on my feet and work? Where can I pivot my career to?
From a privacy perspective, by the way, you can also update your settings so that like your data isn't used for training. I mean, whether or not they actually agree with that, who knows? But I did want to ask ChatGPT, like, can people at ChatGPT read what I'm asking you? And they're like, yes. And I was like, can engineers at ChatGPT see what I'm saying? And they're like, yes, but it would be really hard for them to like actually connect what they see to you. And I was like, but in theory, could someone say, I want to know what Abadesi is asking ChatGPT? And they're like, we have a strict like process for requesting such data, but yes, they can. And I was like, that to be honest, like a little bit.
But to be honest, like, you know, I think apart from the encrypted messaging on like WhatsApp, like Instagram DMs, Facebook Messenger, like that's all open. They can see that if they wanted to as well. So people are sending all kinds of
people blackmail people in this age of information.
I mean, it happens, but people just don't talk about it. Like they do. It happens a lot. Like there's a scam where you'll be talking to somebody, you think it's a romantic connection, they get you to send like some sort of explicit picture, then all of a sudden they're like, if you do not give me this many Bitcoins, I'm going to send this to your entire family and lineage and your working professional,
your ancestors,
you know, network. Yeah, your ancestors, like people pay. And it happens, but people just don't talk about it because it's so embarrassing. Yo, this episode is brought to you by Cozy Earth. Now that I'm real grown, people ask me, where am I at? I tell them I am at home enjoying my rent and my mortgage. I'm at home enjoying my house. It is now my sanctuary. So shout out to Cozy Earth. I've invested in new bedding, new PJs. I'm comfortable. With their bed sheets, I'm sleeping better. I'm waking up refreshed. The pajamas and loungewear are unreal. They got men's, they got women's. I've been splurging. So if you haven't upgraded yet, you're missing out on cooler sleep, everyday luxury, and that sanctuary vibe. And not only that, you get a 100-night sleep trial and a 10-year warranty on all bedding. If you head to CozyEarth.com right now and use the code TECHISH, you get 40% off all the best-selling sheets, pajamas, and more. Treat yourself and invest in your home sanctuary. So speaking of scams and cons and people doing dodgy stuff, there was a hilarious story. Well, not hilarious to the person who got scammed. Obviously, I don't want no one to be defrauded.
Schadenfreude.
But it's become a bit of a meme on TikTok. Basically, there was a person in the US who had a massive amount of Bitcoin holding, apparently up to $330 million. And it looks like $30 million. And it looks like that has been taken from them in a very sophisticated scam where essentially they call you up pretending to be like a financial advisor or law enforcement. Oh, we need you to log in here to keep your Bitcoin safe. And they managed to transfer the funds out of that person's wallet into another exchange, which has probably less KYC, like know your customer. So they couldn't really find out who it was. And then they transferred it into Monero, which is a special kind of token, which is a lot more privacy focused. So you cannot follow kind of the wallet transactions. Now, why has this gone viral? Obviously, listen, $300 million being stolen is one of the largest kind of crypto hijack scams I think in history. But what made people on TikTok find it funny is that it was a London-based individuals who are known to be Somali nationals. So basically, why it went viral on TikTok is people were just like, here's Mogadishu, then and then now, and making it look like Wakanda, basically. And people were just like, yo, the Somalis in Camden, man, holla at your boy, man, bring me in. Like, I was just laughing. I was like, yeah, it's only in London that we're gonna celebrate the criminals like that. Yo, well done, lads, you did it. You're not doing no petty crimes, not no drug dealing, 10,000, 20,000. You did the big moves. Bring us in now. We want investment. Let's turn East Africa into Wakanda, man. But yeah, it's just insane. Like, the ability to scam people probably has never been easier, and the ability to kind of delete your digital footprint if you know what you're doing is also quite easy. So these folks have just gone missing, and I don't think they're gonna catch them. They've got a lot of law enforcement agencies in the US and UK trying to like find out where they've gone. But it wouldn't surprise me if they've gone and disappeared.
Cybercrime. I remember like all those movies like in the like Y2K era where it'd be like do like the beginning of cybercrime. But yeah, the tools have got more sophisticated. I had a text the other day which was like, hello, we need to confirm this blah 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 crypto transaction. I was like, yeah, nice try, guys. I also got another email which was like DocuSign confirming wallet transaction. And I'm like, y'all don't even have grammatically correct English sometimes. Like, why? I don't know. I mean, whatever. They obviously can get super sophisticated and people follow.
Should I explain that actually? So
how people can't spell?
Why they do that on purpose. So you have to imagine that it's a funnel, right? And in your funnel as a scammer, you do not want the most sophisticated person. So you actually want your scam to look borderline like obvious.
Scammy.
You want it to look a bit obvious because the person who falls for that is actually the most gullible. So when you have like these Nigerian prince emails, like if it's perfectly written in English and very
it's signaling.
It's just, you need to signal to you want to get the most gullible people. You want to filter out and just get the most gullible folks so that eventually you can get them into your final part of your funnel, right? And that's actually why some of these emails actually look kind of crap when you're like, who falls for this? But like somebody does.
The people who do. Can I ask you something though? So you were talking about the memes on social media, and obviously you spend like way more time on the internet than me, so you're like more plugged into the internet's own boy.
I was raised by it, molded by it. I only saw the light when I was a grown man. I'm joking.
Exactly.
Shout to babe.
So my question is, don't you sometimes get frustrated by like the hypocrisy of like social media discourse where people like basically idolize wealth and love wealth and want to be wealthy, but when wealthy people are targeted, they glorify the criminals who target them? Like, it doesn't make sense to me. I don't get it.
You know what? I think the internet is more savvy than you realize. Like, for example, people do tend to lionize those Robin Hood figures, the Luigis, these type of people that are scamming. So it depends who's been scammed and who's been stolen from. If it's like some anonymous person who's got 300 million from the US, I don't think people are crying tears, to be honest. But if you are wealthy because you're Beyonce, or you're wealthy because you've given some value to somebody, or you've started a super successful company, I don't think people are super hating on you that much. Like, I mean, there are still going to be some haters, but if this was Beyonce or somebody who has provided a lot of value to people, or Ronaldo, I don't think people are going to be like, oh man, like that's absolutely hilarious that Ronaldo lost $300 million. Shout out to those.
So because this person remains anonymous, we can assume they're not worthy of our sympathy, but we don't know that.
We don't know that. Yeah, you're right though. The internet is full of hypocrisy.
They could like be donating malaria vaccines. They could be, I don't know, like supporting Planned Parenthood clinics, like for all we know. But yeah, anyway, like I think
we've got to talk about actually. Just to cut you off about the internet, and this is almost maybe lose faith in humanity, and I didn't want to talk about it, but I will. There was a clip that went viral of a young white lady, a European American, as I will now call them. She basically, I think she was in a playground with her young daughter, and I think a young autistic child took something from her child.
Yeah,
it's a 5-year-old black child, and she began to call this young black child the N-word multiple times. And now the parent, yeah. And there was a Somali man there who started recording it, and he was like, yo, like, you can't do that. How dare you? Blah, 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 blah. She's like, yeah, I will call him that because he is that. And she was basically an unabashed, avowed racist. There was now a GoFundMe set up, or an equivalent of a GoFundMe. I think there's a different platform. It's a Christian-owned platform called like GoSendMe, something like that. She's now raised $1 million. She's now received over $1 million in donations.
For what?
For basically being a racist and claiming that I need to protect my family because they're trying to cancel me for being a racist, basically, right? Now, these sort of stories make me almost lose complete faith in humanity and make me want to say, let's just wrap it up. Like, I'm looking at the India-Pakistan situation. I'm like, guys, get the nukes out. Let's do it. It's over. Humanity is done. How are you raising $1 million for being a racist POS? Like, I thought we were in an era now where the racists were kind of ashamed, where they kind of had to be like, well, I'm not really racist, but no, but
You
like
did?
they had
While
to couch
Trump
it
is
in
in
something.
power and Elon Musk is doing Nazi salutes, you thought
But
that? Why did you think that?
No, because if you ask them, are you a racist? They will still say no. They will do racist things and say racist things. But the term racist has been made such a taboo that most people will be like, I'm not racist, but
I think people are reclaiming it.
Yeah, now it is. Now people are just like, do you know what? F it. And I saw a segment on Piers Morgan where he's got an absolutely terrible show where he gets guests just to shout at each other.
Why are you watching him?
I'm on the internet, innit? What do you want me to do? I'm addicted to the internet.
Come on.
Oh, man. Anyways, listen, there was people on there that were just unavowed racists that were like, yeah, listen, or like, yeah, whatever, I'm a racist.
There will always be racists. There will always be hateful people. Such is our lot as humans on Earth. And I had this like thought yesterday, and I'm sure it's not profound and not original, but I'm going to say it like it is because I got a podcast. I'm on the mic. And it was this. Every generation of people thinks, oh my God, the world is so bad. The world is horrible. The world is, going to end. It's so wretched. Look at all these ways in which I'm reminded of how wretched the world is. I'm shocked. I'm surprised. Why are we letting ourselves be shocked and surprised? The world in many ways has always been wretched, is currently wretched, will always be wretched. Our time on the planet in the end of the day is actually like quite short. And like for me personally, like I'm trying to just like not let these things shock or surprise me anymore. Like, yes, there are evil people. There will always be evil people. I'm not trying to be like blasé about it. I'm going to do what I can as an individual to make little impact, but I'm not going to distract myself with the fact that a woman uses the N-word and then finds a bunch of other people who like back her up. I'm gonna instead focus on the people who think that that's messed up and are doing things to educate, raise awareness. And this is the other thing that like I find challenging about social media. It's like we get into these like cycles of righteousness, and then we also get into these like cycles of shock and awe. And it's like, like how can you, in the age of declining DEI energy, in the age of like, the president of America doing what he does, in the age of all the various humanitarian crises unfolding in the Middle East, Sudan, and then someone is saying the N-word and then loads of people are going, yeah, good for you. Yeah, here you go. Like cancel culture, F wokeness. Like this has been the reality that we've been living in for like years. I'm not going to let that stuff shock me. What's more shocking is that someone is surprised that there's $1 million worth of power behind using the N-word on a child in America, the same country that's deporting toddlers who have US passports, like going against, the Supreme Court, going against the Constitution to basically be xenophobic, racist, whatever. Like, I'm not surprised. I'm sad, but I'm not surprised.
We'll call it a day there. Yeah, very depressing part. And just to circle back, if you're using crypto,
but it doesn't have to be
answer
depressing.
No phone calls.
No. Here's the thing.
Don't answer no phone calls. Don't answer like does an East African accent. Definitely don't answer no phone calls.
It's Michael. No, but what I wanted to say is like, I'm not saying that to be depressing. I'm saying that to say like, you choose what you give your energy to. You choose what you give your attention to. And you can choose to give it to the outrage, or you can choose to give it to like what is working, what is making an impact. Like the hero of that story is the man who recorded that as a window into what reality is, and as courage to, call that person out. And that's where the story should be, not everyone else that came after to support her.
Yeah, fair enough. On a more lighthearted note, Warren Buffett has retired. Warren B, probably the greatest investor of all time. Here's some crazy stats. If you had invested 10K in Warren Buffett in 1965, it would be worth around $550 million. His total return is 5,500,000%. In annualized terms, that works out to be 20% a year. The S&P only worked out to be 10% a year over that same time period. So what's interesting is that actually when he announced his retirement, the stock dropped. I'm like, how was that not priced in? The man was 95 years old. He was going to retire. Like, how was that not priced into the stock? How's anybody shocked that a 95-year-old man is no longer going to carry on in his job? But he's picked out a successor, some vice chair called Greg Abel. He picked him out in 2021. Here's a quick question that might be a bit of a brain teaser for the audience at home.
He's like your dinner party guest person.
I wouldn't
love him.
Listen, I think in the realm of investing, in realm of business, obviously he's the GOAT, and obviously he actually, compared to the other characters in the business world, when you're talking about Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk and all these other Bill Ackman, he's actually a relatively well-adjusted person in terms of what he says and what he stands for.
We just don't know enough about him. Like, I don't know.
I
I think people that
mean-
rich have a social responsibility to do something positive with their money. And like, you can't be like that rich and where you can literally like pay off the debt of like a small country and then just not.
I mean, he advocates for higher taxes. He definitely backs.
But is he
candidates.
paying them?
Yeah, he isn't. I mean, that's an interesting question. Do you voluntarily pay taxes if you're not obligated to pay them? I don't know. Maybe you do.
There should be some kind of like responsibility for people with that amount of money to like do something with it.
Do you think axiomatically, like, if you're sitting with that pile of money at the end of your life, it inherently means that there's something wrong with you?
He's 95. How? Even if he spends 10 billion a year, he can't spend it all. What's he gonna do? Take it with him to the grave? Be buried with his riches?
I think he's always said that he's going to give it to the Bill Gates Foundation after he dies.
Oh,
maybe
Lord.
some people find that problematic in of itself.
Lord.
But the thing is, listen, I don't know enough about the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation in it. Some people think it's all some giant neo-colonial Sam to just inject people up with all kinds of madness and it's whatever. I don't know. I think obviously some people are probably still alive because of the work they've done in getting bed nets out, etc. But I haven't done the homework, and there's obviously a very barbershop, intellectual hotep style of analysis of that foundation, which is obviously like, nah, man, they're trying to get into Africa and do this. And it's like, I don't know, like, what are they, do you know what I'm saying? What are they really doing? But anyways, I was going to ask you a question about what do you think Buffett's biggest investment was? Or not biggest, his best investment was?
Sea candies.
No, so his best, which is a good guess actually. I don't know you was that up on your Buffett knowledge. Shout out to Abba.
I'm actually offended right now.
No, but that's a stealth pick. That's not an obvious pick. That's actually a deep cut off the album. Like, well done. So he basically.
I read things. I read The Economist. I read Bloomberg.
Okay. So actually,
sometimes
counterintuitively, his biggest and best investment was in Apple in 2016. So that investment in Apple in 2016, he built up a $35 billion stake. And it's now worth around he built up a $35 billion stake in Apple in 2016, and it's now worth over $200 billion, which is an 800% return. Now, the funny thing about that is that at that point, Apple was already the most valuable company in the world. So sitting there as an investment, sometimes you sit there and think, oh, you know what, man, all the good investments are gone. You can't invest in these obvious companies. You know, you need to go find that kind of that new hidden investment. This guy just said, I'm going to put my money into Apple in 2016. And it ended up becoming his greatest and biggest investment. So sometimes we overcomplicate, you know, what is an investment strategy. Pick great companies, great brands with a defensible moat and just sit back and enjoy the ride. So,
but he would have been sitting on that, because there are times where Apple dipped, missed the earnings call. I mean, I know they recently like did really well on their earnings call and like posted higher profits than analysts predicted. But there are like some rocky years. I mean, even on this very podcast, you've been like, Tim Cook don't know what he's doing.
He don't know what he's doing. But that's why I'm not Buffett. That's why I'm not Warren Buffett.
I still stand by the fact that people with that amount of money, especially, look, America, in some parts of America right now, it's a developing country. It's a developing country. I'm not even talking about like Flint. I'm just talking about like other places that aren't as well known or reported where people are struggling. And I just find it strange that he inhabits this landmass and he doesn't do more for the most vulnerable people. I'm sure he does do things, because I know people are going to come for me now and be like, you don't know. But I just think it's strange that we live in a world, and I know this is like a hallmark of capitalism, that we have people who have like so much, and then in the same space, people with so little. We see it in London every day, but
I'm just thinking on my feet here now, innit? I'm just thinking on my feet here now, but so this might not have any kind of, my argument might not have any weight to it. Obviously, Buffett has a lot more money than like some other people, like a Rihanna, for example, or a Jay-Z, or a Beyonce, or whatever, right?
Don't bring Rihanna.
Whenever we bring up those people, we tend to lead with their achievements first, right? If we're bringing up Rihanna, the first thing you're not going to say is, why does she do more of her money? You're going to say, Rihanna's so talented, she's amazing, great singer, great businesswoman, she's made $3 billion, right? Or $2 billion, whatever her current net worth is, right?
Yeah.
But that is also an obscene amount of money.
To watch the full episode, subscribe at patreon.com/techish. You'll get access to all full-length episodes, no adverts, the chance to submit your questions into the show, and early bird discounted tickets to our live shows. Subscribe for as little as $5 a month.